Peace, what it do, family? Your boy Selah Shalom in the building. You know what it is. It's a vibes, you dig? I mean, out here walking my man eaters. You know how we do. Family, family, family. I subtitled this, Flesh and Blood Shall Not Inherit the Kingdom, you know? Because in one breath, you got people boasting about nationality, boasting that they're the chosen race. We the chosen people, right? The Israelites say they're the chosen. The Muslims think they're the chosen. Everybody think their nation is special and is chosen. But then the scriptures say, flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom. Damn. So what do we do with that? If flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom, why are we putting so much emphasis on flesh and blood, which is nationality? Nationality belongs to flesh and blood. Had some build on Facebook today. You know, one cat talking about, oh, you know, we gonna be chosen. You know what I mean? The Hamites gonna be destroyed and all that nonsense, right? So I said, yo, how you gonna say all that when flesh and blood ain't gonna inherit the kingdom? Oh, well, you know, it talks about the 12 gates of Israel, you know what I mean? That's gonna be the new kingdom. But y'all still dealing with nationality in the new kingdom. Although it say flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom. But y'all still dealing with nationality, with the establishment of the kingdom. See that? The doctrine is backwards, bro. Because in one breath, you're supposed to be spiritual beings, but in another breath, y'all reincarnated as physical beings, back in the kingdom. Yeah, y'all gotta check that doctrine, yo. The flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom. Y'all gotta fall back on that tribal talk, thinking your people are the chosen people. We all chosen, children of the Most High, children of the Creator. We all chosen. You know what I mean? So let's get into that. Explain that to me, Israel. Explain that to me, Bible believers. Are you still the chosen, and flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom? That's what I want to know. Edwin, exactly. Peace, what's good? Seaboard, I see you. Greetings. Throw punch, I see you. Right, you're not gonna say the truth is not very truthful. Yeah. If we spiritual beings, why are we so focused on the physical? Why everybody so carnal in their thinking when it comes to spirituality? You know, they say God is a spirit and worshiping in truth. Why are you so focused on carnal minded things? Dig. Even your God is carnal minded. He's supposed to be truth and spirit, and he's worrying about you killing off the Canaanites. Where'd that come in at? What part of the game is that? Huh? What part of the game is God being a spirit of truth, but he involved in killing off the Canaanites? He's involved with killing off his own creation. How does that look? When you could just withdraw the breath of life from them and call it a day. No blood don't need to be shed. You, God, you could withdraw the soul of man. So why we got to resort to bloodshed? Huh? You ain't consider that. while reading your Bible. Why is God so carnal minded? Why is God so caught up in the affairs of mortals? He's more worried about the affairs of mortals than his own heavenly kingdom. When do you see God having counsel in his kingdom in the Bible? Where you see that at? Oh, chill out. Where you see that at? God is more involved in the affairs of men than he's more involved in the affairs of his heavenly kingdom, according to the Bible. Even when Enoch was taken up, when you read the book of Enoch, and he was taken up to the third heaven, he had to shed his flesh, because flesh cannot go past that point. Come on, y'all gonna end up messing up yourself. Because flesh can't even go past that point. He had to shed that flesh before he could enter that realm. See that? Flesh and blood couldn't inherit that part. So why are you so stuck on nationality? Why are you stuck on nationality when that's a limitation in your spiritual progression? Riddle me that. The Bible ain't none but bloodshed and warfare. From the killing of killing of Abel. Look at that. Two brothers. They supposed to be the only two cats on the earth and they can't get along. One killed the other. Look at that. What does that show you? If two brothers couldn't get along, what makes you think a nation of people gonna get along? That's why they stay breaking the commandments of God. Because we just can't get along. Why? Because you focused on your carnal mind and nationality. You think your way of life is better than the next man's way of life. You think your culture is better than the next culture. That's where tribal war coming in. Yup. The angels are all around us, especially when we have guardian angels, and their duty is to keep guard of you or keep watch and record of your everyday going forth by day and by night. But their duty is not to make them known to you, to stay off the grid, to stay unseen, because they don't want to interfere with your decisions makings. Because we can't rely on the angels, because if we rely on the angels, we're not going to become independent. If your child always comes for you for the answer, he's not going to learn to be independent in thinking. So the same rules apply with the angels. We can't always knock and ask for the angels for advice, because then that makes us dependent. And that's not going to make us rational thinkers and figure out decisions for our own. So the angels stay unknown to their mortal wards that they're in guardianship over. And if they do intervene, you won't know anyway. But that's the advantages of the spirit world. They can move in spirit outside of the naked eye and do things, and you wouldn't even know that they was involved in that. So in essence, skin color is the weakest source of identity. It's not to be put on a pedestal. You know what I mean? Because as soon as you think your people is better than the next people, they have the right to think the same thing. So we keep it equal. We keep it balanced. You know what I mean? That's what we got to learn. To respect each other's culture and custom. And if you want to get technical, the body is made of minerals. So your nationality that you boast over is minerals you're boasting about. Your skin color is carbon. So, you know what I mean? Y'all fussing about minerals at the end of the day, because that's what your body made up of, minerals. So you hate the Hamite Because the skin may be dark. That's carbon that make his skin dark like that. So you hate carbon. See how foolish the argument could get? When you ain't dealing right and exact in the truth, and you allow carnal things to block your spiritual growth, it's only blocking your progression. You know, the hate you have for other people, that's stagnating your spiritual growth. The person get hated on who is not hated, that's not affecting them. If you hate me, that's not affecting me. That's affecting your soul. Because you still have hate you have to learn to let go, and you have not. So if you can't get rid of these things on a physical plane, ain't no way in hell you're going to get rid of these things in the spiritual plane overnight. If you can't get rid of them overnight here, no sirree. Spirit is the identifier. That's exactly what it is. Because inside your physical body is your spirit. And your spirit is the vehicle of your physical body. Your corpse, your physical body is a corpse without your spirit. So what does that tell you there? So if you hate somebody's nationality, you're not hating their corpse, you're hating their spirit. You're hating the spirit that possessed the corpse. See? So it gets deeper than the surface now. Because flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom. So if flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom, that means we got to address the spirit. That's what's a focus, the spirit. But just like Enoch, when you get to that certain when you get to that certain level of certain ascension of heaven, when you get up there and you can't penetrate no further because the flesh is not permitted to go past this level of density in atmosphere, you got to shed that thing. And what's left is light, because your spirit is light. Yep. We identify by spirit. That's right. So when you hear the Israelites on the corner talking about we the chosen people, the Hamites, the Edomites, the Perizzites, the thisites, all the sites, the ites, Israel above all them. Everybody, 144,000 is going to be chosen. See that? That's not universal principle. How you creator and only 144,000 of your creation will be saved? You did a poor job on demonstrating resurrection and salvation and redemption to those others who didn't make it. You're supposed to be the creator. You're supposed to have alternative examples, endless examples for a man to rise out of his wicked ways. How many wicked people you know didn't change their ways from wickedness to righteousness? Especially when you were young, like in your adolescent stages. There was some evil-ass kids coming up. I knew badass kids. As grown adults, they done changed their ways. You would never think they was like that when they was younger. See that? Progression. But if you meet a grown-ass man from your childhood and he still act like he did when he was a child, still silly and childish and doing ignorant things to get him locked up or get him physical harm from another person, he ain't spiritually grown. He's still in his carnal mind. And those realities exist. You'll see cats from high school you ain't seen in 10 years, 15 years, and they still on the same bullshit. Or you may see somebody else and they got their own business. They doing good for themselves. You dig? Yeah, see that tribal war gonna get you in warfare. See what the world is setting you up for is war. Everybody got war in their mind, war and destruction and death. Thinking that they're gonna make it out unscathed when the destruction comes. These Israelites be talking on the corner, talking about the 2/3 like they just gonna walk away unscathed without being touched. And they in the metropolitan cities like New York. You in the center of Babylon, talking about 2/3 gonna be destroyed, but you in the heart of the beast. You ain't out here. Didn't the scripture say, get out of her, my people, get out of Babylon? You know what I mean? Go into the wilderness. This is the wilderness. It don't necessarily literally mean living in the wilderness. meaning move away out the cities, move away from the cities, get away from the big metropolitan cities and live on the outskirts where nature resides and is more dominant than the concrete jungle. That's what your book was saying. Just like Sodom and Gomorrah, or just like when Lot left Sodom and Gomorrah and they see Sodom and Gomorrah burning from a distance. They was in a safe ground. They was on a safe turf while Sodom and Gomorrah burnt that city. You notice God be destroying cities in the Bible. He plagued Egypt. And what did Israel have to do after they left Egypt? Where did they go? Where did Israel go after they left Egypt? This is where they went, right here. They went into the wilderness. They went into the wilderness and set up colonies and was living in the wilderness for 400 years without an unwritten record of those 400 years. It's crazy how the time they live under the Creator that's not documented. But what's documented is when they come under the ways of the false god. A rude awakening awaits them. Yep, all of them. You got Koreans. Look at the hate Korea had for everybody. Well, if you don't bow down to whoever that dude, Sing Jung, whatever his name is, or you going to jail. Don't go to Korea. They locking your ass up for doing any. If you look wrong, they locking your ass up out there. So the separateness that they have, the division that they have against the rest of the world it shows. And that's like that with other countries. You know, when the COVID hit, you know what I mean? You had the Chinese was attacking the Africans living in China, trying to put the blame on the Africans like it was their fault. And then we seen the videos of the Africans getting attacked in China. Tribal war, hatred. You know what I mean? Can't reside in the Father's kingdom doing that type of stuff. And that goes with every country. Kizzy, I see you. All right. Tariq, I see you, King. Who you think will win Super Bowl? I'm not sure, King. I'm not a big sports person, really. I used to be when I was younger, but shit, I don't even watch sports, to be honest, bro. And I was an athletic youth coming up. I was good at basketball, good at football, good at flipping, back flipping. I was one of them athletic kids that could damn near do anything. Yo, we used to run up the bathroom wall and do backflips in the bathroom at school. That's what we were doing and shit. We'll have flipping competitions in the yard. Another cat from another neighborhood who nice with the flipping to come through, and we'll do competitions with the backflipping. They used to call me Ninja because the amount of speed I used to pick up when I backflip. Yeah, I was an athletic kid, but I'm not into sports like that, kid. You know what I mean? Yeah, yo, gotta be centered, gotta be balanced. That's the best way to be. You don't want to be too much far left, too much far right. You want to be centered. You know what I mean? Everybody feels that they know everything. You ask somebody who read the Bible, study the scriptures, they ain't gonna tell you with no answer. They gonna act like they know everything. Yeah. So the physical body is just a vessel for the spirit to travel in. Just like a car. Your car is the corpse. You being the spirit makes the car alive and drive and move around. Now just imagine cats is arguing over cars. Oh man, your car whack, bro. Look at my car. Same rules apply. Your car is your nationality. Oh, my Benz look better than your Beamer, bro. Look at my Lex. Look at my Denali. Same argument, dealing with material possessions. The same way they deal with nationality. Flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom. So the longer you hold on to things that pertain to flesh and blood, the longer you're going to be bound in spirit after death. See, that's the key. The more you attach to materialistic things, the more you're going to be bound. So if you love your house, ain't nothing wrong with having nice things. But if you put that as the main focal point, you got some people, boy, you step on they shoes, they ready to kill you. You got some people, boy, if you lean on their car, they're ready to draw down on you. That's because they worship their material things. And a lot of people who worship their material things, they don't have them long. Or if they do have them, something comes up to where it gets damaged. Something to let them know that you ain't supposed to be worshiping material things, but they'll still go ahead and worship it, not seeing the signs that the Creator gives, because they're grossed in materialistic things. UPT, Charlie, I see you. What's good? Right. You know what I mean? Everybody got to die. So now, OAHSPE say that the same behavior you have in physicality in your mortal life, you're going to have in spirit when you cross over. You're not just going to cross over in spirit and in the twinkle of an eye become pure, become holy, and become righteous. You got to work on them things the same way you're working on them now. That's why the Creator says it's best for you to get a hold of these things while you're alive. Because when you cross over, it's not as easy as you think. The challenge may be even harder. You ain't got to bite it no more to archer yourself. And you new into the spirit world, you don't know what's going on. If you ain't got nobody there to govern you, when you cross over, you're going to be gone in the wind. You got some mothers give birth on the street, no doctors, raw birth. You know what I mean? The entrance into the world is real. Not everybody comes into the world with a silver spoon. If flesh and blood don't inherit the kingdom, how do we get our brothers and sisters to wake up out the matrix? We're doing what we're doing now. Constantly spilling the truth. Constantly putting it in their ear. The same way they say, the same way they play the same old songs every day on the radio, programming you. Well, you got to use the same techniques with the truth. You got to start programming it in their head. Just start saying it. The hell with if they want to hear it, say it. How many times you hear a song on the radio you don't like? You really don't like, right? But then after a while, you begin to like it. Why? Because they played it so much and it's programmed. Use those same rules with the truth. A lot of times I come up here and talk about the same things over and over again. The gods, the false gods, the Ethereal gods. You know what I mean? The truth is consistent. You got to constantly break it out. You got to constantly speak it. The sun rising every day. Every day the sun do the same thing. Ain't nothing new about it. Ain't nothing spectacular going on. It's the same consistent truth. See, truth is consistent. So if you got a truth and it's consistent, like I've been speaking, like if you go to my earliest YouTube video from 12 years ago, I'm speaking the same truth. Ain't nothing ain't Selah was saying this at one point, now he's saying this. Nah, all my videos is consistent. Because when I got the understanding of the OAHSPE, it gives you an ecosystem of understanding. An ecosystem meaning it's cycled. A system in order that is beginningless and endless, with a beginning and end based off the function. See that? So once you understand the system in order of the Creator and its creation, you can't get put in no holes. You're going to constantly be saying the same thing. Just like 1 + 1 is 2. If I told you 1 + 1 is 2 12 years ago, I'm telling you 1 + 1 is 2 now. Ain't nothing changed. Truth is consistent. How many times you say 1 + 1 is 2? That gets old saying that, right? But the mathematics doesn't change. The truth remains. Jay, I see you. Mary King, peace. I purchased the OAHSPE and need some help. I live in the Bronx. Is there a gathering? Matter of fact, when I did the lecture, and they got a Cosmon Temple in Brooklyn, and they do got one in the Bronx, but I'm not familiar with the people in the Bronx. But I am familiar with the people in Brooklyn, because they invited me to do a lecture there to speak on the life after death. They offer Bedford Avenue. I forget the exact address. But if they chiming in, if they tuning in, you know what I mean, need the information. Need the information. The Cosmon Temple in Brooklyn. If you hear this, need the information. Somebody want to know about gathering of people who have knowledge of the OAHSPE. Yeah. See, OAHSPE is a book that don't read like the normal book. Meaning to say that I had a couple people reach out to me and was like kind of confused because when they was reading the book, you know, see, first off, the OAHSPE is broken up into the upper and lower books. So the upper books is the story of the angels, and the lower books are the story of mortals. So when you open up the book, the page is like split in half. It's a line in half, and then you got the upper book and then you got the lower book. So when you're reading the OAHSPE, you got to read the upper book, read midway to the page, then start on the next page at the top, midway to the page, then back at the top. So you read the whole upper book like that, then you come back and read the lower book after you read the full upper book. So like, for example, the book of, let's say the book of Osiris, right? So you got, when you open up the book of Osiris, it got the top portion where it talks about the angelical hosts and their proceedings. And then at the bottom, you have the earthly portion where it talks about the nations, right? So the way you would read the book, you would read the upper part first. You'll read the whole upper part, the whole book of Osiris, the upper part. And then you'll come back from the beginning and read the whole lower part. That's how you read the OAHSPE. And when you get towards the ending of the OAHSPE, it's like it read regular, like just from top to bottom. But in the earlier books, like some of the early books, Book of Apollo, Book of Osiris, Book of Fragapati, those books read from top to midway, from top to midway. And then from the bottom, likewise, same rules apply. So yeah, you know what I mean? It's a location in the Bronx. Yeah, though. I mean, OAHSPE real interesting. I was dropping some gems on my Facebook today, dealing with the continent. They were talking about the ring. I was bringing up the Ring of Fire. Like if you Google the Ring of Fire, it's gonna show you a ring coming around, you know, from Japan, coastline of China, coastline of Alaska, coming along the coastline of California. And it's interesting how the way the OAHSPE describes the sinking of Pan, how that coincides with the Ring of Fire in the Pacific Ocean. Because in the OAHSPE, it describes how the Etherian angels hedged around the continent with walls of fire. And then they compressed the continent tenfold, which was the force to crack the crust of a continent. And then they sunk it and compressed it beneath the water. But as they sunk it, it describes how fire and smoke, thunder and lightning was all going on at the same time as the continent was sinking. So ever since that continent sunk 25,000 years ago, that region has been unstable. And 25,000 years later, we label it today, scientists label it the Ring of Fire. And it's interesting how that coincides with the OAHSPE sinking of the continent of Pan, because no other book talks about a sunken continent being sunk by Etherian angels using spiritual technology, hedging it around hedging the continent around like you would hedge a garden, hedging it like this right here, like see the hedges? See how that's hedged around from the concrete to the grass, that hedge? They did that to the continent of Pan. They hedged it around with walls of fire, as they describe. You dig? The Bible don't talk about that. The Bible talk about a flood, but it don't talk about the continent of Pan being sunk, which in return would create a flood, create the deluge. That's where the deluge came from, the sinking of the continent. That's where the flood came from, the sinking of the continent of Pan. Yeah. So it's interesting because, like I say, no other book talks about that. They talk about Lemuria, but Lemuria, they don't describe the sinking of Lemuria in that fashion. But the continent of Pan, the way Jehovah's high-raised angels did that, compressed the continent, sunk it underwater, without disturbing the rest of the planet. That's skilled craftsmanship right there, yo. Read the story of Aph, son of Jehovah. It talks about the flood, the sinking of the continent of Pan, formerly known as the deluge, the flood of waters. What you have in your Bible is the flood, but what they didn't put in there, what the false god left out was the continent of Pan, which was the reason of the flood. They left that out the Bible. But the OAHSPE got it. We got the missing history. You know what I mean? The revelation, the revealing, that which was hidden is now revealed. You knew of the flood, but you didn't know that it was a continent. You heard of the flood. You didn't know the locality where the flood started. OAHSPE gives locality. The continent of Pan was suppressed underwater. So the deluge would have came from the Pacific side of the ocean. That's where the flood of waters came from the Pacific. That's why the region is unstable. That's why they call it the Ring of Fire. That's why it have the 7-mile drop off the coastline, all coinciding with the OAHSPE, written in 1880 through automatic writing, not through looking through other books to find out this information. So this is high-level information we're dealing with. You dig? Coming from the libraries of heaven. This is for the spiritual minded. If you're carnal minded, you're still going to be thinking about Esau, Edom, and nationalities. We're talking about high-raised gods and goddesses who got technology that could crack a continent. And you worrying about a nation? Huh. See where your mind at, Joe. Brooklyn. I did have a lot of experience when I was there, good and bad. Yeah, Brooklyn is a damn country in itself. I used to live in East New York, Brooklyn, right across from Linden Projects, Boulevard Housing. You know what I mean? Ashford, Stanley Avenue, right there on the corner. That's where the project's at. Yeah, yo, I know about BK. You know what I mean? East New York, boy, that ain't nothing but Caribbean people, yo. East New York, Brownsville. You dig? Right, that's what they call it, Pangea, right. That has some significance. Now, although they say Pangea was when all the continents was one, but essentially Pangea is referring to the continent of Pan that was located in the Pacific. Because if you notice with the concept of Pangea, they don't include the continent of Pan in the making of Pangea. They have that absent. So they're not even aware of the continent of Pan in the Pacific Ocean to really formulate Pangea. Because if you look at the continent, I mean not the continent, if you look at the Pacific Ocean and you look at a picture of an illustration of how the continent of Pan looked at, you would see that Pan would have connected China, it would have connected Alaska, and it would have connected with South America and North America. It would have fitted in that wedge right there. And then Africa and South America connect, you see how it could have broke apart. So being that they don't have Pan in the illustration of Pangea, they don't have the missing link. But we got the missing link. So if we was to make an illustration of Pan, the Pacific Ocean would be probably rivers and streams. It wouldn't be no ocean. It'll be a landmass with probably lakes, rivers, and streams flowing through there. And then you will see how this earth was once a one big rock before they split apart. And who could have split the continents apart? Who could have split them continents for it to shift and separate? Could that been done natural through tectonic plates and continental drifting? Or could it have been done like the Etherian angels, how they hitched around the continent of Pan and crushed the crack of a continent? If they could crush the crack of a continent, just imagine they did that before the sinking of Pan. They cracked the crust and spread it out to what we know it as today. Because there is no documentation of humans talking about when the earth was one big landmass. I know some people come with their theories, but historically there's nobody who wrote about it when the earth was one landmass. The earth had to have been split prior to man's creation. They probably the Etherian angels, when they was managing the earth prior to mortals becoming created to the earth. Because keep in mind, the earth is in the care of the Etherian angels, and their duty is to manage worlds. So they got to maintain the earth. So if Jehovah just created a fresh earth with fresh crust as one big mass of crust, and then it's the duty of the angels to divide this crust, separate it, make oceans, have the oceans in between the continents. That's a possibility as well, along with tectonic plates. Once you understand that the OAHSPE talk about angels that could crack the crust of continents with their technologies and their spaceships, that ain't too far-fetched. Razor sharp technology. Pan was huge. Oh yeah, Pan was bigger than Africa. You know what I mean? Look how big the Pacific Ocean is. The Pacific Ocean is bigger than the Atlantic by far. You know what I mean? So the Pan, just think about from the coast of Japan to the coast of California, the extent. You see what I'm saying? So Pan was a big ass continent. That's a whole history we don't even know about. So from the creative man, so man was created in the first arc cycle, right? The sinking of Pan was at the beginning of the 17th arc cycle. So that's a total of 48,000 years that you had a continent with history on the continent. And then in the 17th arc cycle, that continent gets submerged underwater and all that history is forgotten for 25,000 years until the present. Because ain't no other book talking about a continent in the Pacific Ocean that was inhabited like the OAHSPE do. When it talks about the sons and the Shem, Ham, and Japheth, although we know that that's not people, those are fleets of ship, that took place in the Pacific Ocean. So all right, for those who believe in Noah, when Noah built that ark and he got in them waters, that was in the Pacific Ocean. That's where that took place at. That's where that happened. OAHSPE tells you the locality of where the flood took place at, where the people who survived was at. You dig? RTV, Cosmic King, I see you. Do you believe we will ever see a return of these ships that could have cracked these continents? Shit, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Like, if you look up in the night sky, you'll see them in the sky, but they up there with the stars. You know what I mean? It's only when they descend to our atmosphere we behold the magnitude of these ships. Because if think about it, if you could see these ships, OAHSPE call them starships, but one night, just look up in the sky for about a good 30 minutes straight. Just straight look up. If you got glasses, put on your glasses and really look up. And you're gonna start seeing where you may see a star move. You may be like, oh shit, that shit is moving. That star is moving. Like, if you ain't never experienced it, then it's hard to explain. But one day, just go out there, because they always be out there moving in the family. We just don't ever pay attention and look forward. Look upward. You know, cause who gonna sit and say, hey, let me look up to see if I see some UFOs today? Ain't nobody thinking like that. But if you took the initiative to really pay attention to the skies, you would see moving objects. So if we could see moving objects from the earth to the stars, just imagine the magnitude of that ship if they was to descend down to the earth in its atmosphere, or they descend down to where the moon at. The magnitude of that. If we could see that ship from where we at, and that ship is up there with the stars, just imagine that star descending. They say our sun is a star, right? So our sun could be seen how we see the stars in the solar system. Look how massive the sun is. OAHSPE already describes ships that are 10 times, 100 times bigger than the earth. Bigger than the earth. 10 times bigger than the earth. So if you look up in the night sky, get you a telescope. If you're serious about investigating these things, get you a telescope. It was a dude, I found out his name. I remember I said Ezekiel the other night. His name was Ezekiel Wheel on YouTube. This was like 2008, 2009, 2010. It was right when YouTube started popping off. But all he did is he had a telescope. It had infrared light, like you could watch night vision on it. and all he had was chariots all through his videos. I'm like, them things was like, it was traffic up there like we got traffic down here. I was shocked to see that shit. I was like, wow. And I'm talking about balls of fire twirling, and they're spherical. They're spherical. They're global. Every last one of them was global in appearance, with like a photos force of light around it. You dig? This page was Ezekiel Wheel. For those who was up on game around that time, know what I'm talking about. That's all he put up was videos of UFOs or ships in the cosmos, and you could see them plain as day. Yeah, they be blinking too, yo. The ships are blink. Like when I see the ships, they'll appear, and then they'll translucently disappear, and then they'll come back in appearance. You know what I mean? I've seen some come low, like descend low, like yo, that shit is like right there. Although you can't make out the shape of it, it still looks like a ball of fire or a ball of light, a starlight for the most part. That's what it looks like. Y'all chill out, man. That's what it be looking like, a ball of fire. See another dog, you know the man eaters get. Man eaters, boy, when they gotta feel that flesh and blood. See that? They got a taste for that flesh and blood, my little man eaters. I'm going to Facebook DM you my testimonies of spaceships, no doubt. No doubt, yo. Yup. Remember, I interviewed a lady, an Israelite sister. Remember that video I did some years back when a black woman kills reptilian in the 50s? Remember that story I did? If you didn't, go check that out. Or you could just type in YouTube, black woman kills reptilian in the 1950s. It was a sister I interviewed, and she described how some grays, what we would call grays, she described it as frogmen. You know what I mean? Descended down to her great aunt land, Joe. And they killed one of them things and buried it in the sand. And then they came back. They came back with ships, spaceships. They descended on the land. 7 of them came out and retrieved the dead body. Went over to a lake and retrieved the UFO out the lake. I talk about this story. I have an old girl. She gave the testimony based on a true story too. The UFOs landed on their lot, and 7 of the damn, like she described them as frogmen. This is the 50s now they talking. They don't know about no reptilians and grays and, you know what I mean, things of that nature. So she just described how she seen it. She said there was a frogman and it had webbed hands. You know what I mean? But they described that the UFO descended on their land and 7 of the frogmen came out the ship and retrieved the dead body that they buried on the land, and then walked to a pond, because she said they had a pond. It looked, it was big as a lake. And the frogmen, the extraterrestrials, the reptilians, the grays, whatever, they went to the pond and brought the UFO out the lake. Then they put the dead body on the UFO. Then they got in the UFO. Then got in the other UFO that they was in, and they flew up. That was a testimony she gave me, bro. Yup. This was in the 50s. In the 50s, not too long after Roswell. And it was in, the state was Mississippi. I ain't reveal the state in the documentary, but I could talk about it now. She didn't want to tell me then, but it's all good now. That happened in Mississippi in the 50s. New Mexico, Roswell, not too far. You dig? So you got little green men walking around this motherfucker, yo. Thought that shit was a fable, couldn't find out that shit was real. Oh, hell no. What kind of angels are those with the frog heads? That's a good question. That's a good question. Because from what I understood, from what the government said, is that those are actual, like, organic cyborgs. They're not really like to say human to say. They're like part machine, part biological. So they're using like real tissue to create a cyborg being in a sense. And I heard that the frogmen, they were created by the reptilians, the Dracos. The Dracos or the reptilians is the ones who send out the Greys. And the Greys are like the scouters. They come and investigate. So they're really like robots. You know what I mean? They're like machines for the reptilians. From the research that I've been doing with the conspiracy theories on the reptilian and the underground bunkers and shit like that, that's what I've concluded. They all came and said the same thing. Different government officials said the same thing about the Greys being worker bees for the reptilians. And it's the reptilians that we need to worry about. And you know what I'm saying? Like, this is where it gets deep because, you know, you have other solar systems, you have other planets, you have other worlds that are inhabitable just like ours, but they may be more advanced than us. The same way we're now coming into the, aerial plane age, we're now starting to fly and deal with transportation and air. Well, you have inhabitable planets, terrestrial beings who more advanced than us, where they could travel from planet to planet, or maybe even solar system to solar system. Because keep in mind, this is still the terrestrial world, and we're still corporeal beings. So there's no limit. We could go to the moon, we just need the technology on how to do it. We can go anywhere in the cosmos, we just need the technology how to do it. And then right density so we don't crush ourselves in the cosmos. That's why we gotta put on suits. So if you got other beings that are more advanced, like for example, we're in the Cosmon era, right? The OAHSPE talks about every planet, every inhabitable age go through these same ages that we're going through. A stone age, a iron age, you know what I mean? An advanced futuristic age where man takes flight. OAHSPE describes every planetary solar system that if you find a world inhabited goes through that. So what happens if you come into another terrestrial inhabitable world that is 2,500 years advanced than us when it comes to futuristic, spaceships or airplanes, aerodynamics. You see what I'm saying? So the same way we can travel from country to country, state to state, the same way we're gonna start beginning to hop from planet to planet. But then you may already have established beings, terrestrial beings now, flesh and blood beings, that could go from solar system to solar system or planet to planet. Next thing you know, you're like, damn, okay. Like if you look at the Anunnakis, when they landed, they talk like them niggas was terrestrial beings, although they came from somewhere else, but they were out there laboring like man. They had technology, they had gadgets. They wasn't dematerializing and materializing like angels. They was dependent on the technology. So who said that the Anunnakis was terrestrial beings? Just hypothetically speaking, just building, just showing you the possibilities when you understand the Creator's creation, terrestrial and spiritual. No doubt. Yeah, you gotta watch that. Yo, definitely, you'll enjoy that. Man, she told me that shit. She told me that story. I asked her to tell me that story 3 different times at 3 different occasions, and she told it to me the exact same way each time. That's why I knew it was the truth. And she wasn't lying. Damn, I forget her name too. Her name was Kaya. Yeah, I think it was Kaya. Yeah, Kaya. Kaya Israel. Yep. If she's still around, she'll testify. I heard that the good cosmic ships are high in vibration, that they really land due to the current low vibrational frequency of the earth. Well, see, a lot of times, the vibrational frequency, the higher the vibrational frequency, that'll be unseen to our more. Like I said, we see, if you want to know about vibrational frequency, look up the electromagnetic spectrum. That's the vibrational frequency of everything in creation. So when you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, right? you're gonna see that the highest vibrational frequencies is in the like in the gamma rays, the ultraviolet light. Those light are unseen to mortals because they're moving at a vibrational frequency faster than visible light. Visible light is 400 to 700 nanometers. So if the angels wanted to make themselves known to us, they will bring their vibrational frequency down to 700 to 300 nanometers. If they bring their vibrational frequency within that frequency, then we will see them. They will appear to us because they will be vibrating at a frequency that we will be able to see. But if they was to vibrate that frequency, 1,000 nanometers or 200 or 100 nanometers, they would be invisible. Although they will still be right there, they'll be invisible. A perfect example. I use myself for example. I'm flesh and blood. I'm standing here. Y'all see me, right? So I'm vibrating at a vibrational frequency up to say 400, 700 nanometers. Within that spectrum is what my vibrational frequency is vibrating, right? If I was to raise my vibrational frequency to 850, I would disappear because my vibrational frequency would be moving so fast, it'll be considered invisible, undetected by the naked eye. And the same rules apply on the opposite spectrum. If I was vibrating below 300 nanometers, 200 nanometers, I would disappear. See, it works on the both sides of the spectrum. Fast or slow. Vibrational frequencies outside of visible light starts at 800 nanometers and 200 nanometers. That's the science. That's if you wanted to. That's to take away the spookism, because a lot of people try to say spirituality is spookism. Just bringing the electromagnetic spectrum, because that's science. That takes away the spookism of spirituality, because even spirits move at vibrational frequencies. Shalom, Israel. Yakub, I see you. Greetings, brother. Shalom from Sydney, Australia. That's what's up, beloved. Also to catch you live. Blessings upon your temple and household. Likewise in return, King. Blessings. You know what I mean? You in Australia. Look, you close to the continent of Pan. Australia has a lot of ancient history. You know what I'm saying? Very ancient. If you look at the indigenous people of Australia and their culture and their customs, very ancient. They talk about the sky people too. Yeah. They got the petroglyphs on the walls, like the earliest writing systems you could find in Australia. The earliest writing systems is petroglyphs, where it's images that represents the language. So if I have a spare going this way, that means go that way. If I got a spare going that way, that means go that way. Just using that as a basic example. But definitely Australia is close to Penn, Pacific side, salute. Yeah, the Pope's hat, definitely. Yeah, the Pope's hat shaped like a fish. That goes back to the god Dagon. If you look at the god Dagon, he got a fish on his head. You know what I mean? Now that fish could be represented for a lot of things. You know, if you want to deal with astrology, you can deal with Pisces. But what they're really dealing with is the worship of a deity, because Dagon was a god in the land of Canaan. And a lot of gods, they have symbolisms to represent their character, like the tribe of Judah. It represents a lion, showing ferocious and fearless. You know what I mean? I've seen it plenty of nights out here in the VA. See that? Was that Charlie G 5000? Yeah, see? And that's a good place to see in VA. Y'all got the mountains up there. Y'all got them clear skies. You know what I mean? Go somewhere where you got clear skies. Look up tonight. It's starting to get dark. Go out there and look tonight. Guarantee you see something. The times I used to really see them is like right when the sun go down. You see how the sun's setting right now? I say about 30 minutes after the sun go down, like when the sun is completely dark, like right when the sun go down, and right after the evening, and it's dark. You start looking up. Look towards the eastern sky. Look towards where the sun rises. You can see the stars come over the horizon from the eastern side. Like when you see Orion coming over the eastern horizon, it comes from the eastern horizon, and then it comes to the west. So look towards the east, and you're gonna see some of them crafts. Not always in that direction, but that's a direction you see a lot of them crafts in the east. I see them in the west too, but mainly in the east you be seeing them. And another time to look out to go check them is before the wake up 4 in the morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock, and go outside and just watch the skies for about 30 minutes. You may not see it, but sometimes you got a good chance you'll see it. On my moon cycle charts, I got it written down on my charts. I can show you from years back. It'll say UFO. The night I see it, I'll just put UFO underneath it. You know what I mean? It's one night. I see 6 of them in one night, 6 UFOs in one night, standing outside me and my man talking, just like how we talking now. And we looking up and we just see them coursing through, not at the same exact time, but we may see one, boom, and we get to talking 20 minutes later, yo, there go another one, let's look, boom. Talking oh shit, nigga, they go a third one, boy, we done seen 3 for the night. You know what I mean? We done seen 6 all in one night. It got to the point where when they got to the 4th one, when I seen the 5th one, I called my son and my old lady outside. I said, yo, what y'all see? My son looked up and was like, oh, snap. My old wifey was like, damn, see, I told you. And I was like, yo, I told you I be seeing them ships, yo. They bear with my son and my wife seen them. So they out there. But how often do we pay attention to look up to really say, let me go outside and look for some UFOs? No, we worrying about bills. We worrying about rent. We ain't worrying about looking up at the night sky. You dig? Shalom and peace reality. All right, somebody from Atlanta's ugly recognized. You know what I mean? Wise flow, what it do? My backyard and porch was full illuminated 2 mornings in a row at 4 a.m. Exactly. Go out there in the early morning, yo. You're going to see them. Especially if you live on an elevated plane, among mountains or hills, like in Denver, Colorado, they are way above sea level. Or you get a good glimpse of the sky out there. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to the mountain to buy a piece of land in the cabin. That's my game plan as well, yo. Give me a cabin and get up in the mountain, get up on higher ground. That's the game plan. See, the Europeans been on it, boy. They done brought up all the land. They all up in the cabins. They all up in the mountain. Oh, they be doing their hunting and stuff like that. But you get up on them higher grounds on spiritual levels, yeah. Don't be shocked if you have some visitations, because the angels rather visit you on higher ground, on pure ground, than on the lower sea level ground. You know what I mean? Because purity resides in the higher atmosphere. So the higher you go in the atmosphere, the purer it gets. Impurity resides on the earth. That's why the mountaintops hilltops was always important. You know what I mean? When you look at the fallen angels of Enoch, they fell on where? The mountain of Mount Hermon. It was on the mountaintop. In the OAHSPE, when Sathantes established his first heavenly kingdom, he created on a mountaintop on the continent of Pan. See that? When Moses went to go receive the revelation of God, where did he go? On a mountaintop. Yahshua, when you read the story of Matthew, there's some verses where it talks about Yahshua left alone and went on a hill, on a mountain by himself. It's a significant on being on elevated ground, I should say, when dealing with spirituality, spirit communion, because that's where the angel's going to meet you at. That's where the vibrational frequency is faster at on higher planes. Why you think the angels appeared to Yahshua? The angel Moses and the angel Elias appeared to Yahshua on top of a mountain with Peter. And a cloud came over the mountain. Consider what's in your New Testament. It's extraterrestrial activity going on in the New Testament. Yahshua, I wish I could pull up my scriptures. I'm on the phone, I can't pull up my joint. But it's a scripture in Matthew where it talks about after the 6th day, Jesus and Peter went up on, after the 6th day, what's after the 6th day? It's the Sabbath. So on the Sabbath day, Peter and Jesus went up on a mountaintop. And lo and behold, Yahshua transfigured and he was looking like an angel. And then a cloud came over the mountain and there appeared Moses and Elias. See that? On top of the mountain. It's cold up on the mountain. Why? Because the vibrational frequencies is faster. Cold comes with fast vibrational frequencies. Heat comes with low vibrational frequencies. See that? So when it was up on that mountaintop and that cloud came over the mountain, what you think that cloud was? It was a chariot. And them niggas came out that chariot, appeared to Yahshua, and the voice came out the ship, this is my well son I'm beloved with. Yeah, extraterrestrial activity going on. But Peter was there to bear witness. Peter was just a regular Joe. Yahshua picked Peter. Peter ain't pick Yahshua. Yeshua picked Peter. So Peter was a witness. He bear witness to what happened when they went up on that mountaintop. So the significance of being on elevated ground is very important. You dig? But this is a good bill we having right here. You know what I mean? But check this out, though. I'm about to go to the crib and take my little man-eaters home. And I may go live a little later on. What I may do is crack open that Bible and read some of them verses about the characteristics of God. I may name that tonight, if I ain't too tired. The characteristics of God. If I go live tonight, that's the title. The characteristics of God of the Bible. And I'm going to read a good portion of the characteristics of God in the Bible to see if he's a righteous God or he's an angry and jealous God. Can't be both. Only the Creator could do what the hell he want to do what it want to do. The Creator is the builder and the destroyer. The Creator could say that. The Creator is the builder. He builds planetary worlds and he destroys them through the fourth age, the age of dissolution and destruction, where the earth is precipitated back to a dust cloud. Look at the galaxies. Look at pictures of galaxies and all that, them clouds, them dust clouds you see throughout the cosmos. That's what they use to create worlds, yo. The gas state, and from the gas state, the vortex. See that? So the Creator is the creator and the destroyer. But your false God can't make that claim because your false God is a deity, a God in the image of man. So he can't be the creator and the destroyer. If he do that, he'll be a devil because he's going against it. He's trying to be the creator. You can't destroy the creator that thou shalt not kill. Who life you taking? You dig? But holler at me later, y'all. I'm going to chime in a little later on. We can chop it up. Peace and blessings. Shalom.